The desert outside Cairo had stopped behaving like a desert 3 weeks ago. Sand no longer moved with the wind, it moved with sound. Every night at exactly 2:13, the dunes vibrated softly beneath the moonlight, rearranging themselves into enormous geometric spirals visible from orbit. Satellites captured impossible symbols stretching for kilometers across the Sahara before vanishing again by sunrise. Nobody understood how. Nobody wanted to admit the symbols looked disturbingly alive. Elias Vey stood beside a half-buried scanner station while sweat rolled down his neck beneath the dry Egyptian heat. Above him, 7 surveillance drones hovered silently, projecting blue holographic grids over the excavation zone. Then every drone shut off at once. The desert became silent. "Oh, good," Elias muttered. "That usually means reality is healthy." Beside him, the maintenance android Kip-9 slowly turned its chrome head. "Correction," the android replied in its flat mechanical voice. "Historically, sudden universal silence precedes catastrophic events by 87%. You really know how to comfort people. I downloaded human emotional support software yesterday. That explains why it's malfunctioning." A low sound emerged beneath the sand. Not an earthquake. A voice. Thousands of whispers layered together. Elias froze. The sound crawled through the air like invisible electricity, vibrating inside his teeth. The whispers spoke dozens of languages simultaneously: Arabic, Mandarin, Russian, languages he didn't recognize, and some that sounded mathematically wrong. Then came the laughing. Children. Soft, distant laughter beneath nearly 40 meters of desert. Kip-9's optical sensors flickered nervously. "I formally request permission to panic." "Denied." "Then I will panic internally." The scanner station suddenly activated by itself. Holographic screens exploded into static as ancient coordinates flooded across the displays. Elias stared at the readings. His blood went cold. The coordinates pointed directly beneath the Great Pyramid. "No," he whispered. The desert trembled violently. A deep metallic groan echoed from somewhere beneath the earth as the sand around them collapsed inward. Massive cracks spread across the dunes, glowing faintly blue from underneath like veins beneath skin. Then the sky opened. Not metaphorically. The clouds physically split apart in absolute silence, folding backward like torn fabric. A colossal black structure descended slowly from the opening above Cairo. Elias forgot how to breathe. The object resembled a pyramid, but no human architecture had ever looked like that. Its surface shifted constantly, like liquid metal fused with living tissue. Gigantic glowing symbols moved across its sides like flowing blood streams. Sections of the structure pulsed rhythmically, almost like breathing. Kip-9 looked upward. "My threat assessment software has resigned." The pyramid stopped several kilometers above the desert. Every electronic system within 50 kilometers died instantly. Vehicles stalled. Satellites disappeared from radar. Even the stars overhead flickered unnaturally. Then a beam of silver light descended from the center of the pyramid onto the sand below. Something stepped out. She was impossibly tall. At first, Elias thought her body was made from light itself, but as she approached through the dust storm, details slowly emerged. Her skin carried a translucent silver-blue glow beneath which tiny constellations drifted like living galaxies. Thin, luminous tendrils floated weightlessly behind her spine, moving gently as though underwater. Her eyes were the worst part. Not because they were frightening, because they looked ancient. Circular rings rotated slowly inside them, where pupils should have been, glowing gold 1 second and crimson the next. The woman studied the ruined desert silently. Then she spoke. Her voice echoed strangely, layered with faint versions of itself. Memory integrity confirmed. The sand beneath Cairo began to rise. Entire sections of the desert lifted into the air molecule by molecule. Ruined buildings buried for centuries reconstructed themselves instantly. Ancient stone towers emerged beside neon-lit structures that should not have existed yet. Streets unfolded across the sand like awakening circuits. Cairo was rebuilding itself. Elias stared in disbelief as shattered monuments reassembled across the horizon. That, he whispered weakly, that feels illegal somehow. To his horror, the towering alien woman slowly turned toward him. Her glowing eyes narrowed. Then, unexpectedly, she pointed at Kip-9. What? She asked calmly. Is that? Kip-9 straightened proudly. I am an advanced human assistance unit. The alien woman stared another moment. You appear emotionally exhausted. Finally, Kip-9 said, someone understands me. For the first time since arriving, the corners of the alien woman's mouth moved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close enough to terrify Elias even more. Behind her, the reborn city of Cairo continued rising from the dead. The rebuilt streets of Cairo did not stay still. That was the first thing Elias noticed after sunrise. Buildings shifted when nobody looked directly at them. Alleys appeared where walls had existed minutes earlier. Entire balconies unfolded from smooth stone like mechanical flowers blooming in fast motion. Somewhere in the distance, a mosque tower rotated slowly before locking itself into a completely different position. Elias stood in the middle of the street holding a thermal scanner that had already burst into flames twice. I miss normal disasters, he muttered. Beside him, Kip-9 tilted its head while watching three pedestrians walk through the same intersection repeatedly. Those humans have crossed that street 14 times. Maybe they're exercising. They are wearing the exact same clothing and repeating identical conversations. One of the pedestrians suddenly stopped mid-step and stared directly at Elias. We already had this conversation, the man whispered. Then he continued walking as if nothing had happened. Elias slowly lowered the scanner. No, absolutely not. I reject this entire city. Above them, gigantic holographic symbols drifted silently through the morning sky. Nobody else seemed disturbed anymore. Citizens wandered through the reconstructed districts carrying groceries, drinking coffee, arguing over prices as if reality itself had not started malfunctioning overnight. The alien empress stood near the center of a massive plaza, surrounded by floating silver structures. Hundreds of autonomous drones orbited her like obedient insects, while streams of glowing data moved beneath her translucent skin. She was rebuilding more sections of the city without touching anything. Matter simply obeyed her. Ancient stone unfolded into futuristic towers. Dead gardens bloomed instantly beneath her feet. A collapsed bridge reconstructed itself atom by atom across the Nile while thousands watched in silence. Elias approached carefully. You know, he said, most tourists start with restaurants before rebuilding civilizations. Her rotating eyes shifted toward him. Your species reacts to fear with sarcasm. It's either sarcasm or screaming. Both appear equally common. Kip-9 suddenly raised one metallic finger. Correction. Screaming increases by 42% during tax season. The Empress stared at the android for several seconds. You continue to concern me. Thank you, Kip-9 replied proudly. Without warning, the ground trembled beneath them. A deep pulse rolled through Cairo. Every holographic display in the city flickered simultaneously. Then the voices returned. Whispers flooded the streets from nowhere and everywhere at once. Elias felt the sound inside his skull. This time the voices were clearer. Human voices. Millions of them. Fragments of conversations echoed through the air. We never should have left Orion. The vault is failing. Earth was only temporary. People across the plaza froze in terror. A child suddenly pointed toward the Nile. Something was moving beneath the water. The river began glowing faintly blue as enormous geometric shadows shifted below its surface. Elias stepped backward instinctively. Oh, that's horrifying. The Empress looked almost surprised. That should not be active yet. Yet is not a comforting word. The Nile erupted upward. A colossal holographic face emerged from the river itself, stretching hundreds of meters into the sky. Its features constantly shifted between male, female, human, and something completely alien. The city went silent. Then the entity spoke. A genetic vault detected. Its voice shook the buildings. Origin species status fragmented. People screamed and scattered across the plaza. Kip 9 calmly pulled out a tiny emergency umbrella from its torso compartment. What does the umbrella do? Elias shouted. I do not know. It simply feels emotionally supportive. The giant holographic entity slowly turned toward the empress. Royal architect bloodline confirmed. For the first time, Elias saw tension cross her face. The glowing tendrils behind her spine stiffened. You were not supposed to awaken, she said quietly. The engine is stirring. The entity's enormous eyes shifted toward Elias. Then everything stopped. The whispers, the drones, even the wind. The holographic face stared directly into Elias like it recognized him. Memory descendant identified. Elias blinked. I'm sorry, what? Suddenly, his scanner activated by itself. Ancient coordinates flooded the display again, but now there was something else beneath them. A biological signature. His own. Kip 9 slowly looked between Elias and the glowing entity. I would like to formally announce that this situation has become dramatically worse. The Empress stepped toward Elias. Her voice lowered. The memory fragment I used to rebuild Cairo. The city lights flickered violently. Belonged to your bloodline. Before Elias could respond, a deafening metallic roar shook the entire horizon. Far above Cairo, the living pyramid began opening. Layers of biomechanical walls unfolded like gigantic petals, revealing a massive glowing chamber inside. And deep beneath the Great Pyramid itself, something answered. The sound beneath the Great Pyramid did not resemble machinery. It sounded alive. A gigantic pulse rolled under Cairo like the heartbeat of something buried for thousands of years. Windows vibrated. The Nile glowed brighter. Across the reconstructed city, buildings shifted slightly out of alignment as though reality itself had become unstable. Elias stared toward the horizon, while dust drifted through the trembling streets. I officially hate ancient civilizations. The alien empress ignored him. Her glowing eyes remained fixed on the Great Pyramid, while streams of golden symbols moved rapidly beneath her translucent skin. Around them, floating drones suddenly accelerated through the air in defensive formations. Kip 9 slowly raised both hands. I would like to state for the record that if an underground god emerges, I am emotionally unavailable. Another pulse shook the city. Then people began appearing. Not walking, materializing. Transparent human figures flickered into existence across the streets like broken holograms. Some wore ancient Egyptian robes. Others wore futuristic armor covered in unknown symbols. One man in silver clothing walked directly through a wall while calmly drinking coffee. Nobody reacted except Elias. Oh good, he whispered. Ghosts from alternate timelines. Fantastic. The holographic man suddenly stopped. He lowered his coffee cup and looked directly at Elias. You're late again. Then he vanished. Elias blinked several times. I don't like when hallucinations know me personally. Above the city, the colossal living pyramid continued unfolding. Massive biomechanical layers separated slowly like opening petals, revealing an enormous glowing sphere hidden at its center. The sphere resembled a miniature sun, but it was dark. Light bent around it unnaturally, twisting the air itself. The Empress finally spoke. The origin engine is waking faster than expected. Wonderful sentence, Elias replied. Very comforting, 10 out of 10. You continue using humor during fear. I continue enjoying survival. Kip 9 pointed toward the sky. Correction. Survival probability has now fallen below 30%. Can you lie to me occasionally? I was not programmed for emotional dishonesty. That's honestly your worst feature. Suddenly, every screen in Cairo activated at once. Walls, vehicles, drones, even broken devices buried beneath the sand. One symbol appeared across all of them simultaneously. A human eye. Then came the message. Genetic lineage verified. The voice echoed across the entire city. Citizens froze in panic. Elias's scanner violently overheated inside his hands before projecting a hologram above itself, Ancient star maps appeared in the air, rotating slowly beside strands of glowing DNA. The DNA matched his own. No, Elias whispered. The Empress stepped closer to the projection. Her expression changed for the first time since arriving. Not fear, recognition. You carry dormant architect markers. Elias laughed nervously. That sounds extremely illegal. Your ancestor encountered the architects before Earth records began. Impossible. Your species has forgotten most of its history. Another violent tremor interrupted her. A section of the street nearby suddenly folded inward like paper. People screamed as gravity distorted around the collapsing space. One unlucky food vendor and his entire sandwich cart floated upward nearly 10 meters before crashing safely onto a rooftop. Kip 9 watched silently. The sandwich survived. Thank God. Then the city changed again. The sky above Cairo flickered. For one impossible second, Elias saw another version of Earth layered over reality itself. Massive silver towers stretched above the desert. Gigantic orbital rings surrounded the planet. Strange moons hung motionless in the atmosphere. And human beings, millions of them, stood beneath alien stars. The vision vanished instantly. People collapsed to their knees across the streets, gasping in confusion. The Empress looked disturbed. The timelines are bleeding together. I understood some of those words, Elias said carefully, and I disliked all of them. Without warning, Kip 9 froze completely. Its optical sensors flickered gold. Then the android slowly turned toward Elias. Its voice changed. Deeper. Ancient. The vault remembers you. Elias stepped backward immediately. Nope. Kip 9 continued speaking in the unnatural voice. The engine awaits descendant access. The android's chest compartment suddenly opened by itself. Inside was something that had not been there before. A glowing triangular object no larger than a human hand pulsed softly with blue light. Elias stared in disbelief. Kip. I did not install this, the android replied in its normal voice. I feel deeply violated. The triangular object projected another hologram into the air. A woman appeared. Human. Wearing an old astronaut uniform covered in frost. Her face looked hauntingly similar to Elias. The recording crackled weakly. If anyone sees this, she whispered, breathing heavily, do not activate the engine. Behind her, gigantic shadows moved across a frozen alien landscape. They lied to us about humanity. Earth was never our beginning. Static consumed half the recording. Then her terrified eyes looked directly into the camera. If Nysera reaches Cairo, the transmission distorted violently. She will awaken the architects. The hologram vanished. Silence swallowed the street. Slowly, Elias turned toward the alien empress. Her glowing eyes narrowed slightly. You knew, he said quietly. The tendrils behind her spine moved like nervous living wires. Far beneath the Great Pyramid, the buried heartbeat grew louder. The descent beneath the Great Pyramid felt endless. The deeper Elias, Nysera, and Kip 9 traveled, the less the structure resembled architecture. The walls breathed faintly. Veins of silver light pulsed beneath transparent black stone. Gravity shifted unpredictably, forcing them to walk sideways through corridors that folded into impossible angles. Somewhere far below, the origin engine was awake. Its heartbeat echoed through the chamber like a living star. Kip 9 suddenly stopped walking. My anxiety algorithms have achieved consciousness. You don't have anxiety algorithms. I built them 5 minutes ago. Nysera continued forward silently, though the glowing tendrils drifting behind her spine moved nervously. For the first time since Elias had met her, she looked uncertain. That frightened him more than the collapsing timelines above. As they reached the final chamber, the corridor opened into a colossal underground void, stretching beyond sight itself. Elias froze. Millions of glowing capsules floated in darkness, like stars trapped beneath earth. Inside every capsule rested a human figure. Different races, different centuries, different worlds. Some were unmistakably not from Earth at all. At the center of the abyss hovered the origin engine. It was alive. A gigantic biomechanical sphere rotated slowly above an ocean of black light, surrounded by enormous rings carved with ancient symbols. The air itself bent around it. Every pulse from the machine sent flashes of memory through Elias's mind. Alien skies, dead galaxies, human civilizations spread across worlds that no longer existed. He staggered backward. "We were everywhere," he whispered. Nysera stepped toward the engine. "Yes." Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. "The architects created humanity to stabilize dying galaxies. Emotional resonance was the only force capable of slowing universal collapse. And when humans stopped obeying, they erased your history." The engine pulsed harder. Above them, reality cracked. Through fractures in the chamber ceiling, Elias could see fragments of other timelines bleeding into existence. Different versions of Cairo flickered overhead. In one reality, the city floated above the desert. In another, Earth itself appeared frozen beneath massive orbital structures. Then the engine activated fully. Pain exploded through Elias's skull. Every human memory across time surged into him simultaneously. Billions of emotions flooded the chamber: fear, joy, grief, love, rage. The engine fed on all of it. Kip 9 suddenly grabbed its head dramatically. "Oh no. What now?" "I think I'm having feelings again." "That's not important right now." "It feels extremely important." The origin engine began rewriting the chamber around them. Ancient symbols spiraled across the walls, while glowing strands of DNA filled the air like storms of light. Then the artificial gods appeared. Gigantic holographic entities emerged from the darkness surrounding the engine, their shifting faces stretching across the chamber like living constellations. "The species must return to its design." Nysera lifted her head defiantly. "No." The entities turned toward her. "Your civilization is dying." "I know." "Then activate the engine." For several seconds, silence consumed the chamber, except for the massive heartbeat beneath them. Then Nysera looked toward Elias. Her glowing eyes no longer seemed ancient, only tired. "You were right," she said quietly. Elias blinked. "That's honestly the most shocking thing that's happened today." A faint smile crossed her face. "Humanity evolved beyond its purpose. That is why the architects feared you." The engine pulsed violently again. Across Earth, billions of people were now connected to it. Elias could feel them: every emotion, every memory, every terrible and beautiful part of humanity flowing together through the machine. And somehow they were resisting. Not through war, not through violence, through individuality. People across the planet continued telling stories, laughing, singing, sharing memories. Families held each other as reality fractured around them. Humans refused to become one controlled consciousness. The engine could not understand that. Kip 9 suddenly pointed upward. "Humans are posting jokes during the apocalypse." Elias stared. "Seriously?" One viral message says, "If reality collapses, I still refuse to answer work emails." For the first time, Nysera laughed openly. The sound echoed strangely through the chamber as the living walls around them glowed brighter in response to her emotion. Then Elias finally understood. "The engine responds to emotional resonance," he said. Nysera looked at him. "It always did." Elias stepped toward the origin engine. For most of his life, he had hidden fear behind sarcasm, hidden loneliness behind jokes. But now, standing beneath the weight of humanity's forgotten history, he understood something the architects never had. Human emotion was powerful precisely because it was imperfect, messy, unpredictable, free. He reached toward the engine. "We choose who we become." The machine trembled. Nysera closed her eyes. Then she stepped forward beside him and placed her hand against the glowing surface. The entire chamber erupted with light. The artificial gods screamed as the engine changed direction. Instead of rewriting humanity, its energy surged upward through Earth's atmosphere and into deep space. The collapsing timeline stabilized. The fractured realities disappeared. And far above Cairo, the colossal living pyramid slowly began ascending toward the stars. Minutes later, silence returned. The underground chamber was gone. The engine slept once more beneath the sands. Days later, Cairo remained changed forever. Impossible architecture still stood beside ancient streets. Occasionally, holographic echoes of lost timelines appeared near the Nile before fading quietly into the air. Humanity never fully learned the truth about its origins. But Elias remembered. One evening, he stood overlooking the rebuilt city, while Kip9 sat beside him holding a tiny paper cup of coffee it could not drink. "You think she's still alive?" Elias asked. Kip9 processed silently. "Yes." High above Earth, a distant silver light moved briefly among the stars before disappearing into darkness. Elias smiled faintly. For once he said nothing sarcastic at all.